You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengels.
Welcome, Hoosier fans, to the Central Indiana Sports Report and our IU Kennesaw State preview for Saturday. I'm joined by Grant Shouse and Mike Hutsell. Let's talk about Kennesaw State a little bit. Grant, what have you learned about the Owls?
I'm really excited for the Pamela Whitten Bowl on Saturday. Little nugget here. And if you don't know this, then you're probably not an IU fan listening to this. But the president of Indiana University, Pamela Whitten, came to Indiana by way of Kennesaw State. They've played each other in basketball for a few years now. They've come to Assembly Hall. And on top of it, they have former IU quarterback at the helm of their offense named Dexter Williams. And Dexter Williams was a fun player to watch. He single-handedly willed Indiana to a huge win in the old brass spittoon game back in 2022 in double overtime. And I actually went back and rewatched the end of that the other day, and he was so crucial for them in that game. Indiana fans have always been good at the players that have left and then, go on to other places and try and be successful. And it certainly helps that he's coming back in a place where he was a part of the program during what was a dark time. Just was not a very good time in Indiana football, and actually was sidelined for the entire 2023 season. So he was with the program in Tom Allen's last year before Curt Cignetti came in, but he was hurt, and he actually was kind of made not technically, but this was kind of his role, was a graduate assistant. He was there. He learned under Coach Allen for that final year at Indiana, and then he left and went to Georgia State or Georgia Southern. I think it was Georgia Southern, and then moves on to Kennesaw State. So it'll be good to have him back. And to answer your question, what we do know about them is that they are similar to Old Dominion in a way where they have a quarterback with speed. They have a quarterback that can run. That's concerning coming in, especially when we saw how Indiana really had a hard time defending the quarterback draw and the quarterback keeper last week. It was evident on the first play from scrimmage. It's going to be interesting to see how they've cleaned that up during the week, and I think they have. I think they will. So that's a concern going in. Another concern, they have a really quick wide receiver, and they're going to get the ball to him a lot. Dexter Williams is going to throw him the ball a lot. So Indiana's got to be able to cover up receivers. They got to be able to stop the run. Typical normal game things, but I think the thing that, and me and Mike were talking about this here a minute ago, is that you want Indiana so bad to come out and have a game where they win 56-0 or 56-7, something like that, like a Nebraska game-esque score from last year. You want them to be able to dominate the game where not only does it show it on the field, but it shows on the scoreboard as well. So I think I think everybody's a little paranoid to an extent, not necessarily worried, but paranoid about Saturday, but I still feel pretty good about it.
Mike, like Old Dominion as well, Kennesaw State's a pretty young program as far as FBS goes. And like Old Dominion, it should be a pretty easy win. What do you want to see from them?
Well, first of all, I want to see a huge ovation for Dexter Williams. That's a kid who, like Grant was saying, he was an electric player there for a couple of games. He threw for 31 whole yards in that brass platoon game, but ran for 200, I want to say, in that game, and they won like 36-33. It was just a wild game to follow. And he came out and in the bucket game had Purdue just kind of on a blender there. They scored a huge first drive. We're driving down for the second, and his knee just, in typical Indiana football form, exploded. It was like a freaking firecracker went off in his leg or something, and he never really got a moment where the Hoosier fans could give him appreciation or send him off or say thank you or, didn't get and it's cool that he gets to come back and play at Memorial Stadium one more time, because hopefully there's a lot of IU fans now that maybe don't even realize Dexter Williams played at Indiana, but hopefully the fan base that understands who this kid is will give him some sort of recognition on the field. Other than that, screw the Nebraska game. Let's turn this into a Western Illinois affair. I want to see so many points that they're mentioning Franklin College on a broadcast again, because last year when they beat Western Illinois, all the records they broke in that game were they beat Franklin College in like 1903, 70-14. Well, they beat Western Illinois 77-3. So the last time Indiana scored this many points is when Franklin College was there. Maybe we can get another Franklin College shutout by the way they perform in this game. Do I think that's going to happen? I don't think 77-3 is going to happen, unfortunately. But I want to see some form of domination. The further we get away from last Saturday, the more I'm like, something wasn't right. They dominated everything statistically, but something just still didn't feel right. And this could be PTSD from the Tom Allen going to the Outback Bowl and then coming back and having the worst season since the Jerry DiNardo era the following year. I want to see that Cignetti really got into these guys and they respond well and they put up just a huge number, and the defense dominates, and they don't give up 2 80-yard touchdown runs that account for all the scoring for the other team.
You got to hope that there was some things corrected throughout the week, and knowing what this coaching staff is capable of, there definitely will be. But going back to earlier with the paranoia kind of things, I think honestly it's just due to the fact that you're right about the PTSD from the Tom Allen era. And like I remember saying it on here last week that when the Old Dominion quarterback broke that run for a touchdown, immediately my head went back to the Iowa game in 2021 where they gave up the opening kickoff for a touchdown. That's what I was thinking. And you're right. Something about Saturday was weird. Like, not only was it the way the game was played, but it was kind of weird being in Memorial Stadium for some reason. I don't want to have that feeling again. It wasn't a good feeling for about the first 15 minutes, but thankfully they were able to, string it together. Kennesaw State, no disrespect, I'm not sure will be as big of a challenge as Old Dominion was. I think Indiana, I know its non-conference was not great, but that Old Dominion team was its probably biggest test, at least on paper, in the non-conference. I think you're going to see a lot of things corrected from last week. I don't think you're going to see a lot of missed assignments. I think you're going to see more fluent passes from the quarterback. I think you're going to see him connect with the receivers more. The run game will hopefully be just as dominant. And I think, putting up a game like Western Illinois or Franklin College back in 1903 is going to help heal a lot of people's paranoias coming out of Kennesaw State. Talking about Dexter Williams just real quick, Dexter Williams is responsible for one of my favorite pictures in all of Indiana University football. And it was after that Michigan State game where he jumped on top of the bench there on the IU sideline and is up pointing at all these people in the Michigan State stands who I would assume were talking crap during the game. And he made them pay. And they came back and won that game in double OT. So he was very beneficial for Indiana during that dark stretch under Tom Allen. But I'm glad he's back. I'm looking forward to him. And I want him to have success at Kennesaw State, but I want him to have the worst game of his career on Saturday. And
that's one of those, hey, you're great. We love you. We really want to kick your ass right now. But after 4 quarters are over, hey, we love you again, man. I don't think in any way, shape, or form, when I say paranoid or weird or whatever, I want to make it clear. I don't think there's any scenario, and maybe I shouldn't say it out loud, in which Kennesaw State wins this game. The last spread I saw was 28.5. That's down from 30. I don't want to continue to give the national media or anybody a reason to keep crapping on Indiana.
People at work.
Nobody at work said a thing about that game because I don't think anybody understands that Indiana and Old Dominion even played last week. That's how just nondescript that game was. They're too busy freaking out about UK throwing for 43 whole yards or whatever it was against Toledo. But, Indiana played. People are looking for a reason to doubt Indiana. Let's be real here. In a 27-14 game that nobody watched, and they just look and say, yeah, here we go. Indiana beat a Sun Belt team by 13. Well, guess what? They dropped 3 points in the AP rankings. They went all the way down to 21st in the coaches poll. Their S&P numbers, which actually have some actual statistic basis behind them, I think they fell like 8 spots, I think I've read or saw this week in the S&P numbers. So they're already down into the 20s. If they put up another 17-point win this week against Kennesaw, you're at the tail end of the top 25. And we're supposed to be trying to build momentum going into that game, September 21st or whatever it is, against Illinois, to have the first game, and I don't know, ever maybe, where both teams are ranked, or it's been forever since a game in Bloomington where both teams were ranked at the time of kickoff. That's supposed to be, we're building momentum.
Game mattered at all.
We're supposed to be hoping to turn that into a game day game. If you look at the schedule for that day, it doesn't really present too many other options. But if Indiana's 26th in the country at that point, they may just be like, no, enjoy your 2:30 FS1 kickoff. And we might actually look to see what the score was because Illinois is a top 10 team at that point. So this is about building back some of that offseason momentum more than anything. This game, it's put up a huge number. Don't give up any sort of number whatsoever. Make people be like, oh, okay, yeah, Signetti got things straightened out. It was 56-6.
It's about trying to build momentum coming into that game, and we've pretty much covered it all there, I feel like. Indiana's just got to be better between the lines, and the score has to depict how much better they were between the lines this week compared to last week.
And that's about all you can say as far as a Kennesaw preview. The Owls looked okay against Wake last week, lost 10-9. But
Wake Forest is pretty bad.
So we know they're not awful.
Wake Forest, Power 5, Power 4, whatever, 3.5. The ACC doesn't get a full credit.
I think that 70 is probably coming next week, guys.
Oh, Indiana State. Yeah. But Wake Forest is arguably one of the bottom 5 Power 4 teams maybe out there this year. So I'm not going to hang too much on a 10-9 loss to them.
Hey, guys, that's the perfect time to bring in our new Purdue contributor, Jake Dunn. Speaking of the worst Power 4 programs in the country. Sorry, Jake, that is a horrible way to introduce you.
Wow, man. I wouldn't even go there.
Welcome, Jake.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and can't really dispute that claim after last year. So,
yeah, we really can't. All right, guys, thank you so much, and you guys are going to get plenty of time to do some podcasts with Jake when we do some college football reports, and right before Black Friday when Purdue upsets IU and keeps them out of whatever bowl game that they want to go to. Right, Jake?
Yeah, the Gator Bowl is looking pretty nice.
That was Jake Dunn, and right after we recorded the IU Kennesaw State preview, we previewed the Purdue Southern Illinois game, so please go check that out. Don't forget, we will also have reaction podcasts on Saturday after the games with Grant and Mike's take on the IU game and Jake's on the Purdue game. Do us a favor and help spread the word of the Central Indiana Sports Report by sharing this podcast with a friend. Thank you. The Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media, and I love Susie.